Hi, my name is Leanna Pletcher. I am here from Long Branch Nature Center and I'm presenting about warblers tonight. So this presentation is called Identifying Warblers, and I'm Leanna Pletcher. I'm a park naturalist aide for Arlington Parks and Rec. I got my master's degree at VCU where I studied frogs and fish, but I also had a project working on a long-term research study of prothonotary warblers. So on this picture is a male prothonotary warbler, and this presentation was originally written by Cliff Fairweather, my predecessor here at the Nature Centers, who's retired, but he contributed to this PowerPoint presentation. So the prothonotary warbler is a small bird that's yellow, and it's one of many warblers that live here in Virginia. When I was working on this project, I really got interested in warblers and I learned about them, and so that's why I really got interested in warblers. So in this picture, you'll see my mentor, Dr. Kathy Viverette, and she's banding under a Fish and Wildlife permit, banding prothonotary warblers. We also banded some fledglings and adults with a band with a number so that we could track the birds and know which individual is which. And they come back year after year, so we could track them over time. And we did this work in canoes in a swamp because prothonotary warblers are called the swamp warbler. They live in freshwater swamps, and they use nest boxes because they're one of two species of warblers that are obligate cavity nesters. That means that they have to nest in trees or in hollowed out dead trees or in crevices in trees. So they don't build a cup nest out in a bush or in another open tree or branches like other birds. They have to be inside of a cavity. And you might be familiar with bluebirds and bluebird boxes. Those are also cavity nesting birds. So these boxes look a lot like a bluebird box, but they're on a pole in the water a couple feet off of the surface of the water. So they're right at canoe height. If someone's kind of in a canoe, we could paddle up to the box and it would be right at the right height. They can't be too low because during high tide they'd be inundated by water, and they can't be too high because you'd have to stand up in the canoe, and canoes are kind of unstable, so they're right at canoe level. And prothonotaries are competing for space in these swamps, and so there's a limit on how many dead big trees there are that have these cavities, so they readily use these nest boxes. And so we would number them and check on them through the year, and we would see the prothonotaries go from being hatchlings to growing up, and we would count them and weigh them and check their feathers and their condition. So it was a really cool project at VCU. Really glad I got to be a part of it. And so this is the first warbler we're going to learn about tonight, the prothonotary warbler. Here's a picture of the eggs and then the little hatchlings. Now with warblers, you rarely get to see their skin because they're covered in feathers their whole life. And so in this picture on the left, you can see the hatchling warblers. Their eyes are closed. They don't have any feathers. They're born kind of pink, and then they'll go through the nestling phase where they'll open their eyes. They'll start to get downy feathers, and then on the right, you can see some nestlings. They still have a lot of skin, and they'll be covered with feathers later and become a fledgling. Once they become a fledgling, that means that they're getting more ready to leave the nest. And fledging is when they would leave the nest. So the birds in the picture there have some feathers, and they have their eyes open now. And you can also see the type of nest that the prothonotary warbler makes. They're made out of, the nest cup is made out of moss, and then the nest cup lining is made out of pine needles or small twigs or roots to make a finer cup inside the nest. So when the males and females are building the nest, there's different stages like having a nest cup and then having nest cup lining is the final stage. And then as they become a fledgling, they'll fledge and come out of the box. They'll fly around and start foraging and flying, and then they become what we call a juvenile or a first-year bird. And that means that they have a different coloration and a different look to them than the adult bird. After the full first year, then they become an adult, and they will have the adult coloration and plumage. So those are the life stages of a bird: eggs, hatchling, nestling, fledgling, juvenile, or first year, and adult. And so I was really lucky I got to work on this project. And so I learned a lot about warblers and how to identify them, both by their song and by their look, their feathers. So I'm going to play a song of a prothonotary warbler. This is a song of a bird, and you can hear its song. It says sweet, 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 sweet 5 times. And here's the recording. Okay, so it says sweet, 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 sweet.
Repeated single pitch. Sweet, 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 sweet of the prothonotary warbler.
All right, so we heard that sound a lot. It's the males that are going to be calling to the females. And so we're going to learn a lot about warblers tonight, but I'm going to start with a little quiz. Now, you might already know a lot about warblers. So here are 2 taxidermied birds. This one is a mystery bird number 1. This bird has yellow on its head. On the sides of the bird, it has some yellow, and then there's also yellow here on the back near the tail. And the rest of the bird has gray color. There's white under its chin. There's white on the underside of its tail, and then lots of striping and a black band on its breast. So that's the first warbler that we have. And I'm not going to tell you what it is until the end. You can figure it out as we're going through the program. Here's the second warbler. So this bird has also black with yellow on it. On its chest, it has yellow stripes. It has gray on the top of its head. It has yellow under its chin and yellow on its belly. There is black on the tail. There's black and gray on the head. And then on the side of its head, there's a little bit of white. It's got some black under its chin and black and yellow stripes on its belly. So these are the 2 birds that are our mystery birds, and you can try to identify them throughout the talk tonight. So warblers are what we call passerine songbirds. All warblers are vertebrates, so they have a backbone, and then they are in the passerine family, or excuse me, the passerine group. This means that they are perching birds, so they are going to perch onto the branch with their feet, and they're all in class Aves. They're in order Passeriformes. And then the family is called Parulidae. And these are the wood warblers. So all of these birds are in one family. There's about 54 birds in the U.S. in this family of wood warblers. And in Virginia, we have the opportunity to see about 38 of these warblers. My life list has about 22 different species of warblers, so I've identified some. I haven't seen all that are in our area. And then tonight we are going to go through about 18 species. And we'll talk about some of the others, but we'll detail 18 species. Warblers are small. They're the size of a chickadee, and that's about 5 inches long. They have a small, sharp bill, and it's made for eating insects. And then warblers are known for being colorful, like bright yellows with lots of patterns. Because they're up in the treetops, they're in a place where there's like dappled sunlight on the light green leaves, and so that yellow color is very bright. But then there's also warblers that live on the ground, and so they are going to be more subdued colors, like brown colors. So there's two different ways they can look. They can be yellow and brightly colored with white and black, or they can be kind of brownish. And then they're known for moving really quickly in the trees and in the air, and so sometimes it's hard to get a good look at them because they're always flitting around and not giving long looks. But warblers are known to be good singers, and so their song can be a clue for identifying them. Warblers are neotropical migrants. That means that they are only here for part of the year. They're going to winter in the neotropics, which are Central and South America and the Caribbean islands. So in the summer, they'll return, and actually late spring right now, the warblers are returning, and then in the fall, they'll head south and go down to their winter ranges. So a lot of the birds in Virginia are neotropical migrants. What that means is that they're not here year-round. In the winter, we have winter residences. These are birds like cardinals, like chickadees and woodpeckers that are here year-round. But there's also about 80% of our songbirds are neotropical migrants. So they are gone during the winter, and they're spending their winter in Central or South America. So it's a very high number of our perching birds that are neotropical migrants. And here's some examples. Things like hummingbirds, swallows, orioles, buntings, the prothonotary warbler, and other warblers like the common yellowthroat is shown here, flycatchers. So all these birds are traveling very long distances to find that habitat and warm weather and food during the winter. So, like I mentioned, there's a season. The spring migration is happening now from mid-March to mid-June, and so thousands and thousands of warblers are flying up from Central and South America into and across the United States and up into Canada. And then they'll do the reverse in the fall. So around August through October, they're going to be heading south. And so some species we'll only see as they're passing through on these two migrations. Other species we'll see all summer long. And then for nesting, some warblers nest in Arlington and in our area in the lowlands along rivers, but then there's more species that nest up in the mountains. And so that is where they're going to be nesting. To find warblers, birding usually happens in the morning. Before 11 a.m., a lot of birds are active. Then as the day goes on, they're less active, but around water, there might be some activity. Then there becomes another period of activity later in the day as we get towards the evening. But then during the migration, birds are flying nonstop. They might rest a little bit, but any time of day you could see birds because they're migrating and moving all day long. And then winds from the south are going to carry birds up north in the springtime. And then the opposite is true in the fall. A northerly wind will carry the birds down south. So fronts of weather systems can bring the birds with them. And then a fallout is when the weather becomes really poor and birds will just land instead of flying. And so rainy nights or foggy nights, birds will come down to where we can see them towards the trees or bushes or ground, and that'll be called a fallout. To identify warblers, you have to look at their plumage. Like I said, it's very hard to see the bird's skin. It's buried under all these colorful feathers. And so we're going to be looking at things like color and pattern on the head. On the top of the head, on the forehead, and the top of the head is called the cap or the hood. There's the face and cheeks, which are around the eyes. We can look at the bill and what color the bill is, and then the throat underneath the bill. Those are all places we can look for marks. And around the eye as well, there's sometimes an eye ring or an eye arc. And then on the body, the breast area can have colors, the belly, and then on the wings, there's two places to have wing bars, which are white stripes across the wing. The tail can also have white striping on it. There can be streaks on the belly, and then the eye ring. And then we can also identify birds by their behavior. So if the color, it's hard to see, let's say it's a first-year female, it looks kind of grayish, we're not sure, we can look for the behavior of the bird. Like, is the tail moving? Is it cocked? Is it bobbing? Is the bird walking or hopping? And then how is it foraging? Is it up in the trees? Is it hanging upside down? Is it on the ground? So all these are clues for what type of species it could be. We can also look at the habitat that it's in and where it's located. Is it up in the mountains? Is it along a river? And then the season. Certain birds are only going to be here during a migration time, or only here during the summer, or maybe just here in the winter time. So the season that we see it can help identify it, as well as using things like songs and being able to hear the bird and hear what it's saying. So here are some birds that are not warblers. These are all small perching birds, but kinglets are too small to be a warbler. They're a little too small. They're much smaller than a warbler. Vireos are a little bigger. The blue-gray gnatcatcher is about the right size, but the color is wrong. It's just solid blue and gray. So these are all common birds, but these are not warblers. Here is a warbler that is the most commonly seen warbler. So this is what we're starting off with, the most common one. The yellow-rumped warbler can come in two color variations. The myrtle is the one that's on the east coast, and the audubons is the one that goes out to the west coast. And each of these different kinds of color morphs of the yellow-rumped warbler looks a little different, but here we have the myrtle version. And in this version, there's a bright yellow patch on the rump, or right at the top of the tail, and that's where it gets its name, the yellow-rumped warbler. But there's also a patch of yellow under the wing, and it can also have a patch of yellow on its head. So on the left is the male. In the middle is like a first-year female, which is more drab and doesn't have as much of a yellow color yet. And then on the right is the female. Something you can identify about this bird is there are two white wing bars. There is also black legs and a black bill. And then there's a white supercilium, which means the eyebrow or the white stripe above the eye. There's white on the throat that we can see. And so this is a very common bird, because if we look at the map, yellow is where it summers up in Canada. Blue is where it is going to be during the winter time. So this is a bird we're going to see perching on branches and out visibly foraging in the winter time. And so this is where season can help us identify the bird. Green is where it can be year-round on the map. So this is the yellow-rumped warbler, and I have a call for this bird. So a lot of sweet sounding, sweets call. Now this is a bird called the palm warbler. If we look at the map again, the time it is in Virginia is going to be in the winter as well. So if it's here in the winter time, and another thing about the palm warbler is that it's constantly flicking and bobbing its tail. So this is a bird that we can use behavior to identify it. The palm warbler male is on the left. It has a bright reddish color on its cap, on its head. It has a yellow supercilium and a yellow breast with red streaking in it. It has the white wing bars against a brown body, and it has the black bill and black legs. But the reason why we can identify the palm warbler is it will be often on the ground foraging, and it will be constantly flicking its tail. On the right is another palm warbler. There's two different kinds of palm warblers. There can be the yellow version or the brown version. On the right is more of the brown version, where it's a little bit more brown on its head and its body. It doesn't have the bright yellow colors as the other one, but you can notice there's also yellow under its tail. So that is the palm warbler. And we have the palm warbler song here.
Buzzier.
Okay, so it's a little bit more of a buzz sound. Now the pine warbler is another one that we have in the winter time. So in this map, yellow is going to be the summer, green is year-round, and blue is winter. So the pine warbler is found in pine forests, but it's found in Virginia year-round and in the summer. So this is another more common warbler that we can see better because it's just here more often and here in the winter. So the pine warbler is yellow with the two white wing bars, and that yellow under its throat it also has an eye ring or eye arc around its eye that's yellow, and yellow on its back. It has white underneath of its tail and under its wings, and the female looks more gray, like a mockingbird. It doesn't have the yellow as much, but it does have the white wing bars. And so the pine warbler is one that we can use season to figure out the species, but also it doesn't have as many markings around the head. It has a lot of yellow there. And here's the pine warbler.
More musical.
All right, so let's keep moving on. Here is a common yellowthroat. This bird has a really black mask on its face that is bordered with white. So what that means is that even on like a first-year male, there's going to be a big contrast between the black on the face and the white stripe on the forehead. It has yellow on its throat and under its tail, but then the rest of the body is called a drab olive. On the right is a buffy first-year female, so it doesn't have that bright yellow color. It has more of a buffy, pale cream color under its throat. And so the male bird on the left-hand picture has that really distinctive eye mask. And it's called the common yellowthroat because of that bright yellow under its chin area that goes down into its breast. Now its legs are more a lighter color. It looks like more of a pinkish gray, and it has a black bill. So this bird on the map is here in the summertime. Green is year-round, and it's wintering down in the Caribbean and Central America. Here's the sound of the common yellowthroat. So
Song of the common yellow.
It's witchety, witchety, witchety. All right. Now here's the yellow warbler. This bird is known for just being just solid yellow. It even has yellow on its tail, which is pretty uncommon. A lot of birds have black or white on their tail. The yellow warbler is going to be solid yellow with the orange and reddish kind of orange streaks on its breast. And the reason why there's only one picture is because the females and males can look a lot alike. So here is the song of the yellow warbler.
Sweet, 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 little more sweet. Song of the yellow warbler.
Okay, so this bird says sweet, 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 little more sweet. Now there are not any wing bars on this bird either. The wings are kind of unmarked, and it's more of a solid yellow all over its whole face. Its legs are pink and its bill is kind of grayish. So this bird is here in the summertime. On the map shows that it's yellow, and that means that it's here just in the summertime. It's year-round in the Caribbean, and it winters in South America and Central America. So this is the yellow warbler. Now this black and white warbler to me looks a lot like a woodpecker, because woodpeckers have a lot of white and black stripes in it, and they also act like woodpeckers. These birds are going to be foraging on the bark of trees and on the branches, and they're going to be creeping like a white-breasted nuthatch, like a brown creeper, like a woodpecker along the trunk, hanging upside down. They're going to be pecking out insects in the crevices of the bark, and they have a really bold look of black and white with a white supercilium and then black and white striping all along its breast. On the right hand side is the female, which has a little bit more of a buffy color for the supercilium and the striping. It's a little bit more kind of tannish, but this is a really distinctive coloration and behavior of the black and white warbler. So if you look at the map, this bird is here in the summer, and in the winter it's in Florida and Central America. Here's the song of the black and white warbler. All right, and here is a bird that is it's distinctive because of its behavior. So redstarts are known for flicking their wings and their tail, and when you see one, it's really distinctive the way that it behaves. It has orange and black markings, but the way to identify this bird is by the wing flicking and the tail flicking. That's just what it does, and the males do that in the forest. So here's a little bit more about the redstart. They do look like an oriole, but warblers are about 5 inches long, and orioles are going to be like 7 inches long, so they're much smaller than an oriole, but they do have that black and white with a bright orange coloration. The females have more of a yellow coloration on the right-hand side of the picture. They're not as bright and they don't have the black on their head, but the American redstart is a very distinctive color. They're here during the summer as well in Virginia, and then they're going to winter in Central and South America. So the way to tell this bird is by its distinctive colors, but also by its behavior. Let's see if I have a redstart.
He's a red start. Listen to his song and the subtle changes, phrase by phrase.
So a little bit of a sweet sound, sweet, sweet. Now the hooded warbler is a warbler that has a really distinctive face. The hooded warbler has black on the crown of its head that connects all the way to its chin, and it has that really big black eye with yellow along its face. There's also a yellow breast and then an olive body. You can also tell in this picture of the male on the right, there's white on the tail feathers. And so there's a little streak of white that you can see on the tail. These legs are pink and the bill is black. And so the hooded warbler is here in the summertime on the map. It's yellow around Virginia because it's here in the summer, and then in winters in Central America. And this bird is known for being in the understory. So this picture of the female on the right, she doesn't have the black under her chin, but she does have black on her forehead. And then the picture is her in these bushes in the brushy understory, and that's where they're known to be located in their habitat. And here is a hooded warbler song.
Clear whistles, tweet, tweet, tweetio of the hooded warbler.
All right, so tweet, tweet, tweetio. The black-throated blue is another one that is going to be in brush. I saw this one kind of at eye level in brush as it was migrating through. So you can see in the map that it's up in Canada and in the mountains of Virginia in the summertime, but it's not going to be in the lowlands and rivers in the summer. It'll just be passing through in the spring and fall migrations and wintering in the Caribbean. And the black-throated blue has a really distinctive plumage. It's got blue solid all over its back. It has a black mask and then a white belly with black feet and a black bill. And the female on the right is much more subtle. It has more of a buffy yellow color, and that to me looks a lot like a vireo. But the difference here is that it's going to be about 5 inches, so a little bit smaller than a vireo. And we can also use its call. So here is a black-throated blue warbler.
Black-throated blue warbler.
All right. So the way to determine this one is that it's going to be kind of in the brushy mid and understory, and then it's going to have that distinctive blue on its back. Here's the black-throated green warbler. This is a bird that summers in Canada in conifer forests, and so on the picture on the right of the female, you can see the pine needles and the conifer needles. This bird has a territory up in conifer forests or the boreal forests of Canada, and then it winters in Central America, the Caribbean, and the top of South America. So this is a bird that's going to be passing through on its migration and then also up in the mountains during the summer. The black-throated green warbler is called green because of the patch on its back behind its head. This yellowish color is supposed to look kind of like an olive green. And so that's why it's called the black-throated green. It has black under its chin, but then it has this kind of triangle of green on its back. It's got these big distinctive white wing bars and then streaks under its body of black and white with yellow along its vent, which is the area under its tail. And it also has yellow with a pattern around its eye. So this is the black-throated green warbler, and here's its song.
Trees, trees, murmuring trees, and zee, 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 zoo, zee. Song of the black-throated green warbler.
All right. So the black-throated green is one that we can see in the migration, and it has that kind of distinctive black under its chin. But I put this one with some others that look kind of similar. So let's look at these others. The northern parula, I've also heard the name as parula. I think that might be the British pronunciation. This is a smaller warbler. Its size is a little bit smaller than the others. It has a shorter tail. It's got that blue color, a green patch on its back. And something interesting about this warbler is its mandible. It has a upper and lower mandible. The lower mandible is actually yellow and the upper mandible is black. So its beak or its bill is two different colors. So in the picture you can see that the yellow under the throat extends all the way out into the lower mandible, and the upper mandible is black. It's got two white wing bars and the blue on its back, and then underneath it has a white belly. So the parula doesn't have warbler in its name. It's just called a northern parula, but it is a warbler. And then the female looks really drab compared to the male. It has yellow with the two wing bars, and it looks a lot like a vireo. So this bird is going to be summering here in Virginia and wintering in the Caribbean. So yellow is its summer territory and blue is its winter. So the way that we can tell it's a parula is it has that bright blue coloration. Here's the song.
Increasing zipper-like trill with an abrupt ending. Zee-up. Or, that's all, folks, of the parallel warbler.
So that is the song of the parula. Now the blackpoll warbler looks a lot like a chickadee. It has a black cap on its head and then white underneath. It has two white wing bars and lots of little streaks. You can notice its feet are pink. It has a grayish bill. And so this is a bird that we're only going to see during its migration. It doesn't nest or spend a lot of time in Virginia, but it'll be passing through on its north or south migration. And I have seen one of these as it's passing through, and it goes down to winter in the top of South America. And then the female in this picture is sitting on a spruce branch because they're known to nest in the northern boreal forests of Canada in the spruce and conifer forests. So that's why the female is pictured here on a spruce branch with the needles. And so this is the blackpoll warbler, and here is its song.
Blackpoll warbler.
So that is when we'll see during its migration. Now it's time for a quiz. This is a quiz. There's one bird here that doesn't belong with the others. So can you look and tell the difference between these birds? They all look kind of brown with black little spots on their breast, but one of these birds is a warbler and the other three aren't. So I'll give you a second to look at this picture and choose which one you think the warbler is. All right, I'm going to reveal the answers. And so the ovenbird on the bottom right is the warbler. It looks a lot like these three thrushes, the wood thrush, the hermit thrush, and the Swainson's thrush. Wood thrushes live in our forests. They're going to be on the ground, just like a robin is on the ground. These are all related to robins. They're all thrushes. But the ovenbird is a separate group, a separate family, and that is the warbler. So why does it look like these other thrushes? Well, because its behavior is the same. It's going to be on the ground, kind of that drab coloring with the spots, and it's going to be flicking over dead leaves and looking for insects foraging on the ground, just like these other thrushes forage on the ground. And here's the song of the ovenbird. So this is the bird that says teacher, teacher, teacher. Sounds like there's also a woodpecker in this one. So teacher, 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 teacher. So that is the ovenbird. It looks just like a thrush, but the difference is it's much smaller. Thrushes are going to be about 7 inches, where the warbler will be about 5. And here's a little bit closer look at the ovenbird, and you can see the difference is on its head it has an orange stripe that's bordered by black. It has pink legs, a lot like the other thrushes there, but they don't have that stripe on the top of the head, on the crown of the head. And then ovenbirds are going to be here in the summertime, and they winter in Florida and Central America and the Caribbean. So this is an ovenbird. Now these birds, these next few birds look a little bit alike. They have a lot of yellow and black. And so this one is called a magnolia warbler, a magnolia warbler. And the magnolia warbler is, here's the song.
Sweeter, sweeter, sweetest, song of the magnolia warbler.
Okay, so sweeter, sweeter, sweetest. The magnolia warbler has a white supercilium and a little eye arc underneath of its eye of white. It's got what's called a black necklace around its throat area, where the black stripe goes all the way across, and then there's streaking on the sides. It also has white under its tail. A lot of birds have a solid tail that's black, but this one has a black tip on its tail with white on its tail as well. So that's something that's distinctive about it. There's yellow on its throat, it has gray feet and a black bill, and it's gray on the back of its head. The female has a lot of yellow underneath, but it's gray on the top, and they have the white wing bars. Now this bird looks a lot like the magnolia warbler. I'll go back and forth so you can see. Well, I might not be able to go backwards, but the yellow-throated warbler has yellow and lots of black and white streaking with the white wing bars. But the difference is that this bird is going to have white bordering its eye, and it goes under its eye as well. And so this is a yellow under its throat, and then lots of black and white streaking here. The yellow-throated warbler, here's its song. So the yellow-throated warbler is going to be here in the summertime. The green is year-round. It's year-round in Florida, and the blue is the winter range. So it's going to winter in the Caribbean. So this is a bird that we're going to see around Virginia, and it's got a lot of gray on its body. All right, now the chestnut-sided warbler has a really distinct looking orange stripe on the side of its body. That's where it gets its name, chestnut-sided warbler. The chestnut-sided warbler also has yellow on the top of its head, and it has a lot of white on its body. In the picture here, there is, it's kind of got the female in the first year have a greenish yellow on the top of their head with a white eye ring, but their body is more gray. The female also has 2 white wing bars. So the chestnut-sided warbler has a really distinctive plumage, and it's here during the summer, and it's going to be up in the mountains. So on this map, the summer is the red color, the yellow is in migration, and then the blue is going to be its winter range. So I saw this bird up in the mountains, and that's where it's going to be summering. And so there's really not a lot of birds that look like this. It has a really distinctive plumage. And another way you can recognize the chestnut-sided warbler is it cocks its tail. That means it holds its tail up at an angle, and it holds it up in kind of a proud way. And so having that cocked tail, having the chestnut stripes under its wings, and the yellow on its head is how we identify the chestnut-sided warbler. And so here's a chestnut-sided warbler song.
Often confused with the yellow warbler. Please, please, pleased to meet ya. The song of the chestnut-sided warbler.
Please, please, pleased to meet ya. Now this is a worm-eating warbler. This is another bird that's going to be down on the ground. And so this bird is brown. It has, its markings are the black stripes on its head and also on its eye. Otherwise, it's very drab and plain. It doesn't have any wing bars. It has pink bill and feet, and it doesn't have any other markings on its body. So this bird is opting for more of a camouflage because it's going to be down on the ground, and its name means wormy worm eater. So Helminthes is the group that means worms, and then vermivore means it's a worm eating. And so this bird is going to be here a little bit in the summertime and in migration, and it's going to winter in Central and South America. So the worm-eating warbler. And here is the song of the worm-eating warbler. It's like a buzz.
Insect.
So it's a buzzy sound. And this is an insect eater. It's going to be down on the ground. It's going to be flipping over leaves, and it's got that really drab coloration. And there's only one picture here because the juvenile and adult and female and male all look similar. So we profiled 18 species of warbler here, but there's 20 more that are possible to see in Virginia. So that gives us a total of 38 different warblers. I'm just going to say the names of these warblers. We're not going to get to go into them very much, but in the photo here is a Blackburnian, a Cape May, and then on the bottom left, a bay-breasted warbler. So these are some of the ones that are here, and they're going to be migrants. And we'll just go through some of the names. So orange crown warbler, Tennessee warbler, mourning warbler, cerulean warbler, Kentucky warbler, and then the blue-winged and golden-winged have a X next to their name because these two warblers interbreed with one another, and the offspring looks different than both of them. So there's a blue-winged, golden-winged complex of different birds. There's also 2 kinds of water thrush that are down along streams, the northern and Louisiana water thrush. There's the Canada warbler, the bay-breasted, which is the one pictured here that has those red stripes, kind of like a chestnut-sided. There's a prairie warbler, the Cape May warbler, which is up here at the top. There's a Nashville warbler, the Blackburnian, which is here on the left, and a Swainson's warbler, Connecticut warbler, Wilson's warbler, and then Kirtland's has an asterisk because that is one of the rarest birds and one of the rarest warblers. That one is going to be up in Canada, in pine forests, in a really restricted part of central Canada, and then migrating south. And so I also have listed here the chat. Yellow-breasted chat was grouped with warblers, but it's now been put in its own family. So in my bird book, it's listed as a warbler. It's yellow, but it's actually more closely related to blackbirds. So there's a lot of different warblers to see. We only got to talk about 18 of them, but it's definitely a big challenge in birding is identifying all these different colorful warblers. So where do you find them? Here is a picture of Long Branch Nature Center where I'm working right now. And Glen Carlin Park is the name of the park that surrounds the Nature Center. This is a great place to look for birds and warblers. And if you look on eBird, you'll see these places listed as places where warblers have been found. Gulf Branch Nature Center is in North Arlington, and nearby is the Potomac River with Potomac Overlook Park. Fort C.F. Smith Park is also along the river in Arlington. And there's Monticello Park in Alexandria. If you go down into the island in the middle of the river is Theodore Roosevelt Island, and then along the river is C&O Canal along the Potomac. And then the most birds can probably be found in Shenandoah National Park. And that's because birds use landmarks when they are migrating. Just like we use landmarks when we're traveling, turn right at the big tree and go past the fire station. Birds also use landmarks like mountain ranges, water bodies to help them on their migration, and they learn these landmarks. So following the mountains is a way to get where they're going. And I want to say thank you for watching the recording, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can email me at lpletcher@arlingtonva.us. And here is another picture of the nest boxes that we made for the Prothonotary warbler with a clutch of eggs inside. The Prothonotary can have multiple clutches in a season. And then here are some students from Charles City County that were helping build these nest boxes with me. And then here's a picture of all the nest boxes that we built in one day because as the nest boxes wear out, they might need to be replaced. So here's a project that we got the community to work with us on, and it was kind of a cool thing to do. So thank you again for watching, and if you have any nature questions, feel free to email me. Bye!